Alright, hi Miss Breakfast. Quarter 3. Read The Jungle Book. It's pretty great. Yeah, I'm kind of tired of Kipling, but it's fine. One more thing. Woo! Good job. Okay, so basically, The Jungle Book is about a boy named Mowgli who is chased by Shere Khan, a tiger. And then he is saved by a mother and father wolf. So he just runs into the forest, he's being chased by the tiger. The wolves take him in and save him from the tiger. And then for the rest of his childhood, he's raised by the wolf family, and eventually the wolf pack accepts him as kind of one of their own, so they'll chill with him being there. And Baloo is a bear, and Bagheera is a black panther, and they both teach him like the ways of the jungle. He learns like the languages and like how to survive basically, and Mowgli becomes really good friends with them. He kind of doesn't like Baloo because Baloo kind of like is harsh on him, but he really likes Bagheera. Bagheera is like his best friend. And eventually they're out in the forest, and he's captured by monkeys. Are they called like the Banderlog in the book? Yeah. And Baloo, Bagheera, and Kaa, who is a rock python, go and save him. And so then after that, he has more respect for Baloo, and he promises never to run off with the Banderlog again, because he was told not to, and he still did, and that's why he got captured. And then eventually the pack feels that he's too much of a man to live with them anymore. So they send him off to live with the village that is nearby to the jungle. But he doesn't fit in there because he's a wild boy at heart, and he never learned how to really act human. So he tries to go live with people, and it just doesn't go well. He doesn't fit in, and he doesn't like it there at all. So he's sent to graze the villagers' cattle out in the fields all the time. And one of his like wolf brothers comes and meets him, and they talk about like what's going on in the jungle every once in a while. And one time, the brother wolf tells him that Shere Khan is after Mowgli again and is going to try to kill him, as he's been doing like his whole life. Ever since he got away the first time, Shere Khan's been like trying to kill Mowgli. And so then, he warns him, and then both of them together with the herd of buffalo, they outsmart Shere Khan, and Mowgli actually ends up killing Shere Khan and skinning him. So then he brings the skin back to the wolf pack, and he is much more respected because the tiger was like, no one had even like dared to do that. So it was like a really bold move, and so whenever he brought that back, he was accepted back into the wolf pack and everything. And then he gets to live with the jungle and everybody else, and he's happy again. So yeah, it was a really good situation for him. Okay, and now for my theme. I picked setting to do for this book because there's two main settings that are really important to like the core plot of the story, and also to Mowgli's character. One is the jungle, and one is the nearby village, because they represent like two different things in Mowgli's life. Because in the jungle he's happy and he loves it there, like he wants to stay there forever. And then whenever he has to go to the village, he's all sad and he's uncomfortable and he doesn't fit in. So it represents like two distinct parts of his life, kind of in like two different factions. Basically, the jungle that Kipling was writing about in this book is the Madhya Pradesh. Yeah, I don't really know how to say that, but it's a jungle in India. Important because he wrote most of his stories in India. So he wrote about that, and then a village that was just nearby the jungle. It was a made-up village, I guess. And he wrote it around 1893, so it took place a pretty decent time ago. So the villagers are a little bit like primal in a way, kind of, because there's no like technology, there's not like electricity and like advancements and stuff. It's kind of like a rural kind of village thing. And I would just say for the setting of the book, like, it helps to establish Mowgli's characterization as well as like the plot line of the story, because without like it being set in India, the book would be totally different, and it would be telling like a different story, and it wouldn't most likely have been as popular or as effective as it is today, because it's a really famous story. I mean, there's been movies, I don't know, like 2 or 3 movies made about it, and so like the setting just really helped to like push it out to the public and make people more interested, because it's not something they're used to, especially to people who don't live in India who are reading it. So yeah, I thought that was really important. Okay, now we have some examples. So on page 10, Baloo says to Mowgli, he says, "Now you will be safe in the jungle because no snake, no bird, no animal will hurt you. You do not need to be afraid of anyone." So basically that was just like giving an example of how Mowgli felt like he could be safer in the jungle because he grew up there, he knew how things works, he had learned the language of like the animals and stuff, and he knew how to communicate with them. But then with like the villagers, he didn't know how to speak to them, he didn't know how to act like a human in any way. He was really just straight up like an animal. And so when he was in the jungle with all of like his jungle friends, he just felt safer, and yeah, it made him happier as a person, or as a person overall, and he just felt better. And it's like a big shift in what we see from when he goes from the jungle to the village of people. Okay, now for example number 2. It's on page 32, and it says, "The women called Messua," yes, again, I don't know how to say these words, "took Mowgli to her house and gave him milk and bread. This was Mowgli's first time in a house, and he did not like it. It felt like a prison." So after he goes from living in the wild his whole life, being free to roam wherever he wanted for the most part, he gets put in a house and he feels really restricted and confined, like a prison, like Kipling says. And he feels like he has no like freedom and no choice, and it makes him, he just wants to get out. So that night he ends up sleeping outside, like under the sky, because he doesn't like the roof, because it scares him and it gives him like anxiety, kind of, just because he doesn't like it at all. And all he wanted to do was go back to the jungle. Like, he kept trying to leave, but he knew the wolf pack didn't want him back. And now that the people knew that he existed, they weren't going to let him just walk back away. Especially because the lady who was taking care of him was really attached, because she had some idea that it was her son that got taken by a tiger, but they never specify if that actually was Mowgli. And basically, yeah, just the 2 different settings really show Mowgli's 2 different states of mind, and how it affected his overall mood. And the tone of the story changes as well when it goes from like being in the village to being in the jungle. The tone goes from like, it's happy in the jungle and everything's going well, and then they go into the village, and like the tone suddenly gets like sad and more depressed and more like melancholy, kind of. Okay, now for my commentary on my theme, which is setting. So like I said before, it basically establishes the 2 places, and it helps to establish the 2 different tones that are found in the story, from like the happy Mowgli to the not so happy Mowgli. Also, it's kind of like a wild and like foreign setting to like, especially readers today, and especially American readers. So it brings the readers into the story, because he describes like the jungle around it and like the village and stuff, and it sounds like something, it's not something we're used to, so it's interesting to all those people, including me, I guess. Yeah. And yeah, it allows especially Americans to step into India, where the culture and the nature around it is like so much different. So it kind of allows them to experience India in a way, especially, I mean, reading it now, experience like older India back in like the 1830s. Yeah, the 2 settings make it easier to distinguish between Mowgli's 2 different feelings and 2 different phases in life, because he grows up in the jungle and he learns the ways of the jungle and how to talk and everything. But then he goes to the village, and it's not like he just goes there and learns nothing. That's another phase in his life where he learns how to be a person, and how to be at least a little bit more human, and how to take on like certain responsibilities. And like, he has to herd the buffalo, and he learns how to keep that safe and bring them back into the town, and he learns how to talk to the people. So it's a learning factor in his life, not only something really bad that happened. Like, he got stuff out of it. And yeah, just like the setting of the village and the way Kipling like set it up made it so that Mowgli could have that experience there. And another thing is just like jungles and like wild places and things that we don't know much about draw just interest to the story. That's one of the reasons why it's such a popular book, and probably one of the reasons why there's multiple movies that have been made about it. I mean, Disney's made some, and I don't know who else has made some, but like it's made it more magical, I guess, because it's kind of like, wow, that's like a foreign place, and I want to read about it. Like, does this really happen? And obviously, it's a fictional story, but it draws people in, and it especially draws in younger kids because, I mean, obviously, The Jungle Book is kind of like a kid's story, and also Kipling's other books like Rikki Tikki Tavi, those take place in India, and it just draws kids' attention, and it makes them want to read the book, and it helps them to learn about culture around the world. So ultimately, it's educational in a way through a fictional story, and the setting is a big factor to that because kids want to read books about foreign places. It's different, it's new, they don't know much about it, so it makes them excited to get into reading the book. So Kipling did a really good job of using the setting to convey like his motives and his themes and his main point across whenever he was writing his stories, especially the Jungle Book. So